Hey everybody, welcome to episode 5 of RestorationZ. In this series, if you've not been watching, you should go back and check. Basically, we are stripping down my DRZ400SM because the frame has got some rust on it, and from the looks of it, well, it's not from the looks of it, we are going to have to take the engine out to get to all of it and actually properly deal with it, but obviously where we're on lockdown at the moment, not such a big deal. Today's first job is going to be getting the fluids out of this bike, because in the last video, you know, we got the electrics basically off the bike, but they actually go underneath the frame here, and to start getting more of the bits out here, I'm going to have to take some things off here, and it's like, well, let's just drop the fluids out of the bike, and it will allow me to get the radiators and everything out of the way, and it's going to make my life a lot easier. Right, the first thing I'm going to go for is the coolant, and normally, when I have drained the coolant out of this, I undo this one, which is, you know, the main connector down to the pump, and it just goes everywhere. And it's got this little bleed screw down the bottom, you know, just get the last few drops out. So what I'm going to actually try and do is undo that and try and get the majority out into the bucket. I'm not going to remove the radiator cap until I've got that sorted out, and then when I undo that, it should all then flow better. I'm hoping to not make a mess in here. That's what I'm basically doing. Okay, that's what I was hoping to happen. Well, I don't have the big squirt at the beginning, but now, I know. No, the flow rate. So my whole plan of like not making a mess didn't exactly go to plan. Obviously this is coolant, you can't pour this down the drain, so I'm collecting it in this bucket to put it in a big bottle, and then that goes down the recycling centre. Same as engine oil, you know, you can't put this stuff down the drain, it's quite harmful, and don't leave it around if you have animals, because to my understanding, they're stupid and they'll eat it. You also need to drain this bottle out, which is the overflow, or the expansion chamber, should we say. That actually comes out the bottom of the bike. So what I'm going to do is stick the breather in the bottle and turn this upside down. And I hope this works. I'll have to disconnect this one. Okay, so that's the coolant out of the bike and all in there, ready to go down the recycle centre, because obviously you have to change it, but you would anyway. Okay, so now all the coolant is out, we need to take the oil out, and underneath the bike there is a couple of drain points. The main one though is, I'm trying to do this in the viewfinder, that one there. But we also have a drain point here, because as I remember I said this is a dry sump bike, so the frame's got oil in it. There is also a drain point here. I strongly advise picking up one of these if you don't have one. It's one of these, you know, storage bottles stroke draining trays. They're available on Amazon and eBay, and I've got them on my Amazon store actually. If you didn't know I've got an Amazon storefront, go to the description of this video and click on the thing that says like products I use or recommend, and it will come up in my store, and I've got these in there. Get them wherever you can. Find a good deal. Oh, let's just take that out. The only thing is, though, I do wish that I had a piece of gauze to put over here just to stop the sump plug getting dropped in by accident. I'm going to leave the cap just in there slightly because I don't want to have to pick this out. But there is a way you can do this. You keep positive pressure on the nut to keep the oil from coming out. And then I did it! I didn't get covered in oil. No, I need to open the radiator cap, not radiator, the oil cap, quick. Okay, just north on the frame, I'm sure you've seen there is an oil fill cap. This is the same deal, but I'm never as good at this one. Go. Oh no, 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 no. Oh, I hope you can see what's going on here. It's a nightmare. Take it there. Ah. Okay, so that's draining. Right, well, I'm going to leave that for 20 minutes, half an hour. Just let it drip and get as much out as I possibly can. Then it's going to be sump plugs back in. Then I can take some of the, or I can take the radiators off and some of that cooling system, which will allow me to have more room to get to this stuff, to get the electrics out and the cables from things out. And once they're out, because that's all that's really left under here, it's going to be engine. I don't think it'll be engine in this episode, but we'll see. Okay, well, I've given it a little while to clean off the sump plug. Nothing nasty looking on there. That's good. It's got a little magnet on the end. If you obviously get any big issues in your engine, you'll get little pieces of metal sticking onto it. Nothing there. Don't forget to put your bung in here. Also, I like to spray with some brake cleaner and wipe it off, because if you leave it standing, that little bit of oil that's here will run down and it'll just get everywhere. So clean it up best you can. Is that coolant or oil? I think it's oil. So we lost like 1 or 2 drops of oil through that whole process. Good stuff. Right, so now we've got the oil and coolant drained. I've taken a tie wrap out the middle here, and this is what we're trying to get all out of the way. You can see this is where the electrics goes underneath, but we've got stuff in front. These are the throttle cables, this is the clutch cable, this goes to that radiator, and there is actually a connector in there that I'm going to mark up so I know what it is. But yeah, I'm just going to label up a couple of these. Then we can pop that radiator off. It will give us a bit more space to get to all this. Clutch cable, throttle cables off. That will allow us to get the electrics out. Yeah, it's going all right. I'm just taking the nut off the bottom, and now I'm just unscrewing the pivot pin. It's the pivot pin out. Now if I loosen this off and line this all up. I can take the cable end out. I'm going to stick the lever back in place with everything, just make my life easier finding it later. Right, so there's the clutch cable loose. Now I'm going to do the throttle cables. I've just taken the 2 screws out of the throttle housing here. Note one of them is longer than the other one. This is a situation where you really do need to pay attention. So obviously if you put a short bolt in a long hole, it might not do the job. And if you put a long one in a short hole, you might blow out the back of the hole. So you need to pay attention. Anyway, as always, huge thanks to my Patreon supporters, and this is something I'd actually need to sort of quickly discuss. As you know, I never really wanted to start Patreon, but as it turns out, it's been the saviour of this channel, and I think it's actually been very, very beneficial to this channel, because we actually, you know, I get to interact with you guys on a more personal level, and I get to discuss and find out what you would like to see that fits in with the stuff that I like to make. Anyway, as you know, I've never wanted to make tiers. I've always wanted it to be, you know, if you want to support Patreon, you get everything for $1 a month, and that is not going to change. However, we are introducing, or should I say we've discussed, putting more tiers on, because basically people didn't realise, or a lot of people didn't realise, you could actually do more than the $1 a month if you wish to. So what I'm going to do, and as I've discussed this with the patrons, is I'm going to create a few tiers, but know that the only difference is how much you donate to the channel, how much you help the channel. So if you get the $1 one, you'll get exactly the same as what you do if you get the $10 one, but it only costs you $1, not $10. It's just so people can support the channel to the level that they're happy to, but it's fair for everyone. I don't want to segregate things off behind paywalls and paywalls. Everyone gets the same, but it just makes being able to choose how much you want to support the channel by easier when people come in. Works out for everyone. So just be aware that that's something that's happening on Patreon. If you'd like to support this channel, please check out the links in the description. Anyway, throttle tubes come off because we've disconnected the 2 throttle cables. We won't really get confused as to which way around these goes, because I'm going to screw this back together. It also gives me an opportunity to make sure that I put the long one in the long side and the short one in the short side. Let me see, is there anything else I've been thinking about with this? Well, spraying the frame. Obviously, if we're spraying the frame myself, I can do it any colour I want. And I was considering doing it white, because a white frame on this bike would look cool. Looks like we need new grips too. Right. Quite a bit of faffing later, but I've got this all apart. I know this might look like a confusing mess, but if I actually start pointing some things out, it's going to make perfect sense. So you've obviously got screen. This one here connects to this switchgear here. Then you have this one here, which connects off to this one up here. So all we're actually left with, once you disconnect everything, is this little bundle. And you'll notice that yellow, green, blue actually goes into the black one. but you can't really get this wrong. Like, that's a 3-pin, that's a 2-pin, so you can't really put them in the wrong place. And I've also disconnected this housing, which will go with the loom, which takes the flasher relay. That was just pushed onto like a pin, this rubberized thing that just sits on there. So now it's all free. Looks confusing, but in reality it's all colour coded and it's just that. There's nothing stopping us getting this all off. So the first thing, I'm going to take this radiator off because it's right in the way. I've just remembered something I should have said earlier on, and I'm sure I've got comments on it now. Yes, before I drain the oil, well really before all of this, what I should have done first was drain the oil, because I could have run the bike up, got it warm, and then drained the oil out. That would have been the better way of doing it, but I forgot to, so I had to just make do. Right, then the only thing holding this on, there we go, is the pipes. Let's go. I got my thumb over that one quickly. Where's my jug? One right hand side radiator, and as you can see, this is in pretty good condition. Normally old radiators will have a lot of dinks in them, and there's just a couple. A little bit of fluff and stuff going in there, but we can clean these up once the last few drops have come out. And I get them in this bottle. Treat these as if they're incredibly delicate, because they actually are. As I say, the fins on the front get mushed up way too easy. I'm not even mad about this. Look at the grease layer underneath here. Now, I just want to show you something here, and this has always seemed pretty obvious to me, but people, you know, I know people think that the best way to look after a bike is treat it like it's, you know, out of the showroom and it doesn't have a speck of dirt on it. So as you can see, there is some heinous grease going on here, but when we wipe that off with just a little bit of brake cleaner, the paint underneath there looks brand new. Now, I know it's hidden away down here, blah, yada, 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 yes, but that grease has definitely protected that. You know, it's a layer of grease. Rust can't form, water can't get to where there is a layer of grease. So I'm not saying keep your bike completely grease covered, but this is why in the winter, when the bike's all greased up, I don't bother cleaning it, because I think that that's giving it, also use ACF 50 and all that sort of stuff, but once you've got that layer of gunge, it actually protects the metal. I think that every time you clean metal, you get all the grease away from it, it's just going to start rusting again every single time. So having a dirty bike is not shameful, unless it's not dirty in the right ways and it's just filthy and you just haven't cleaned. Okay, I've just disconnected the clutch cable. Nice and easy, just, you know, it's the one of the quick release type, like you have at the other end. Then that comes through this, oh, through there. That sounds like a washing machine, doesn't it? You know, when someone leaves like some coins in there. Right, then this should just, ta-da, one clutch cable. I thought this might be a handy tip actually, how to tell if a clutch cable's still good. Well, number one, can you freely do that? You know, there's no resistance, nothing, it feels nicely lubed, not gungy or anything, that's great. Then you want to check the ends of the cables through here for any splinters. I can't feel any splinters this end, so that's good. Then check the other end. And it's normally always in that first couple of inches where you start to get frayed ends. If you have one or two, think about changing your cable relatively soon. If you've got a few, they're like a little tuft, it's only so long before it's going to snap. But yeah, if you need to check your clutch cable, free movement, no frayed ends, and well, nothing sort of worn through the middle cable. But yeah, as long as it does those, it should be all good for however long. As I mentioned earlier, we have two throttle cables. Some bikes have one, some bikes have two. And one that's got one, it pulls, which lifts up the needle in the carburetor or activates the fuel injection, you know, and then it's returned by spring. On a bike like this, when you close it, you have a second cable that actually pulls it closed. So you have a push-pull type arrangement, although I think it's actually pull-pull. Whatever. Point is, I just want to check which one goes where. So the front side cable, so as I wiggle that, you should, maybe if it's not too dark, be able to see that this one's moving. So we know that the front side cable is the front side, as it were, of the carb. So I'm just going to disconnect these by spinning it around and unhooking them. Just loosen those off. Okay, so these go through the hole under the frame in front of the coil. Same deal with these, they need to be free moving, have no splinters or broken bits. I did notice there was maybe one very slight splinter in one of these, but it's one strand, and it's because it's right up inside the housing. I'm not too worried about that. There we go, that's better. This camera's got a light on it, I should use it more often when I'm doing this stuff. Right, so the only thing left actually electrically plugged into the bike now is this quick disconnector, which goes to the fan, this quick disconnector which goes to the thermostat. You have two thermostats on this bike, I'm remembering this all now. You have one which gives you your warning light just to say it's getting a bit hot, and the other one is the thermostat to turn on the fan. This measly, puny little fan here, which makes absolutely no difference. But yeah, so once I've unplugged those two and unplugged these out of the coil pack, the electrics is going to come out. Oh yes, finally. So the only thing that's actually in my way now, right, this hose here is one of the oil hoses. Disconnect the horn. So once I disconnected those two connectors and the two main bolts, the other radiator came off. So now, right, the moment that's taken a while to get to, but we are finally there, is we can pull the wiring loom and everything back through, and voila, it's off. That is the entire wiring loom for the DRZ400SM, although there's a lot of stuff going on in there, like I've done the free power mod. I remembered what the two blanked off connectors were. One of them was the solenoid in the carb, and the other one was the rectifier power connection, because you do a thing called the free power mod where you basically shorten the run of cable so it doesn't go all the way through the loom, it goes just directly to the rectifier, and it basically means you don't lose as much voltage. Anyway, wiring loom's off. I have just dehorned Derek. Now, obviously, at some point, I'm going to want to take the carb off, whether that be to clean it, or if I can get one of the companies that I have in mind to send me one of their super special ones, that would be amazing, but I really doubt that. So, I'm going to leave it on the engine for now, just to protect, you know, not allow the engine to be open to the elements, but we will have to take that off and clean it at some point. But now, there is nothing holding the engine in. Oh, actually. Always a scary moment undoing the header bolts. Oh, eventually I got it off. One header pipe. I think I'll probably replace that bolt because it's a little bit rusty. Also, I will note, on the DRZ, it would appear that the way that you actually tighten this up, because you can't get to it, really, when it's in place, is that you get this one relatively tight, then the opposite side has got this sort of barrel nut, and I think you cinch down this side to tighten this up, so you only set that about right, and then tighten it with this one, like I've done, well, like I had to do on the LXR380. I thought that was just going to be a poor bit designed by China, but apparently not. Suzuki and Japan are just as bad. But yeah, that could really do with a clean up. That's a stainless steel FMF Powerbomb header, not that you'd ever know it. So all I've got to do now is take the chain off and take the rear brake off. But before we get on with that, recognise this? Well, no, you don't recognise this, but it looks a lot like this. Basically, this is the shock that I got. It was from Philtonic. He was when he bought it because he was going to try and fit it to his pit bike. Anyway, this has only done about 5,000 miles. This has obviously done nearly 30. So what I'm thinking of doing, because the actual spring on this is scraped up and the paint's off a bit more than the white one. So I think what I might do is put the white spring on this damper, because then we've got a 5,000 mile old damper and the spring doesn't really matter. It should be alright. Okay, yes, this is probably a better spring, but this is fine anyway. So I just, I can, so I will. Though I'm probably going to have to get some seals, because I noticed that the seals at the top on that one are a bit perished. Not the end of the world. Another thing I need to get, that should be easy, is some of these bolts. These are just, 6mm domed by normal length. Perfectly easy to get. But I did a little bit of research on the internet last night, and I actually found a website that sells all sorts of different types of fasteners, including shouldered domed ones that look just like this, and I think they actually are for bikes. So I'm going to take one of these in, measure it up, and then order some of those. And then we will have the correct bolts that we actually need, unlike that bolt pack before. When I stopped earlier on, I sprayed these WD-40 and I came out just to give them a little tap, see if they would come undone, and thankfully they weren't too difficult at all. So he says, yeah, they're both fine. Because I'm just going to remove the whole brake system together. Yes, I'll have to rebleed it and all that later, but for now, this is just the easier way. I've just remembered from the previous video, the easiest way of getting the rear caliper off is to take the rear wheel off. I think it's pretty much the only way, but whatever. Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll loosen this all off, get the split pin and everything out, and then I can get to that once I want to take the rear wheel off. Which will be once I've taken, well, before I've taken the swing arm off, because I'll lighten it up. I also need to order split pins. What I need to do is make a shopping list. This one I thought was never going to undo, but I remember that I've sprayed it with WD-40 a couple of times in the past, because when I last tried to undo this, it wouldn't undo. And then earlier on, I just leant on it, and it just came undone. Yep, it's just like a pivot that it sits on. And spring of the spring, we have one rear brake lever, which, yeah, a little bit of a, well, I know about polish, but the clean up will come up nice. There you go. Can't lose the spring now. Well, harder to lose the spring. Probably still will. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do is pop that chain off, and then the next episode is going to be engine out. And that shouldn't be a lot of work, hopefully. Hopefully. And then after that, it's going to be the fun bit of just getting through videos of just cleaning everything up. Everything, probably like the calipers and everything, can wire brush them, clean them. Stuff that needs to be painted can be painted. Fasteners that can be cleaned up, It's going to be really satisfying to like be able to clean it from the very inside out. Well, you know what I mean. Come on, you little split pin. Yeah. No. Are we in neutral? We're in neutral, so we should be able to just... Ta-da! That is filth. It's not that old, but it is filth. Right, well, there we go. That's pretty good progress. Everything is stripped off the bike. The next job is literally drop the engine out, and then the fun begins. Cleaning everything up. If you're enjoying this video, please remember to hit the like button. Maybe consider joining my Patreon if you can. Huge thanks to those that do. Until the next one, I'll catch you next time. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to see future videos. This channel is made possible by the support of the audience. Please consider joining my Patreon to get early access to videos, questions answered in the monthly Q&A, your name on screen, and some exclusive content, all for as little as $1 a month. You can also check out the links in the description to my merch and other ways to directly support the channel. Thanks for watching.